Hello Virgo, welcome to August 2020. I'm Elizabeth Ashley, the Secret Healer. Welcome to my channel, list of essential oils and their uses, and welcome to Leo season. The sun goddess decided to frequent the Secret Healer's shed because we wanted to do you a reading for August 2020 from the Tongue of the Trees cards, essential oil oracle cards. Now, I have looked at the astrology for the month and it's interesting. It's going to be a very interesting month for all of us. So what I'm going to do is draw us 13 cards to be able to see which essential oils will help us to exploit the opportunities available to us and to help us overcome and be prepared for the challenges that are coming ahead for us. So what I'll do is I will draw out these 13 cards, show you the cards, and then I will turn the camera around to show you the reading, and then I'll put together some recipes on slides for you to recreate to help you navigate the month of August 2020. So Virgo, what essential oils do we need for Virgo? Your first card. I love Monarda. I bet there's loads of you going, what oil? Beautiful, beautiful oil. I've written a book about Monarda. We've got lots to talk about. Oh, lemon. That's a nice one. Number 2. Number 3, myrtle. It's coming up in everybody's reading. Number 4, peppermint. Number 5, yarrow. Lovely. Number 6, mandarin. These are nice positive oils you've got. Number 7, angelica. Sandalwood. Notice the D is missing off my sandalwood. It was the first pack to be made and we had to put D's on the rest of them, so mine's special. Sandalwoo. That was your 8th card, sandalwoo. And then tea tree. Number 10, orange. Lovely positive stuff you've got. Lots of citruses. Sweet fennel. Number 12 usually tells me how you're feeling at the moment. That's a nice relaxed card. Lavender. First time that's come out. Ooh, Palmarosa. Stuff to say goodbye to. So I'm going to turn it round and tell you your reading in a moment. But let me tell you a little bit about the cards and the reading first. They were originally designed by a Hungarian aromatherapist, my business partner, Gergely Halodi, and he was using his version, which is a green box, for people who were doing kinesiology, who knew nothing about essential oils. And they were simply drawing an essential oil to work out which energies to work with. So he asked me to help him to translate them, which I did. And the plants spoke to me in rhyme, which is very strange. So if you get your own pack, you'll see the whole thing is poetry. Some of it great, some of it not so great. But some plants are very good poets, not all of them. That's all I'm going to say. But I am a pain practitioner. I'm a clinical aromatherapist and a medical astrologer. And what I was interested to do was to use the cards. So I created a spread that was designed to work backwards through somebody's pain situation. So if somebody came to me who had lots of issues with pain, but the doctor couldn't actually work out why and come up with any answers from MRIs, from x-rays, etc., and sent them away saying it must be stress, they would come to me furious and they would say, okay, let's explore that just a little bit. So these cards are designed to bypass the conscious mind that says, oh no it isn't, and to say, right, unconscious mind, if it were, show me the issues in the tissues. Show me where you hurt, and let me love that place first. Somebody put that on Facebook today and I thought that's exactly it. So we zone in at that point. To do that kind of reading, we read anti-clockwise. It spirals back to the root. But I found by reading clockwise in a spiral, we can read and work out what we need to do for the next month. And so This is going to be interesting because there are some big challenges ahead of us. There's good stuff in that the eclipse season is over. We've had all these eclipses in the Cancer, Capricorn houses, and normally, you know, we'd have like 3 in a year, but we've got 6 this year, and 3 of them happened in June and July. So no wonder we feel shaken up, right? Mercury's been retrograde, so I've had all the computer stuff and travel plans going awry and miscommunications. Venus has been retrograde, and well, if ever there was a time when you shouldn't have your hair cut, that was the time. So thank goodness they were all shut anyway. But now it's going direct and we can have our hair cut. So there is some really good stuff happening because they move quickly through the zodiac, and we make some great little conjunctions this month. So there's some really nice stuff from them, but their retrogrades are over for a while. Mars is about to go retrograde next, and through most of August it will be in shadow before it starts to retrograde in September. And as it's making that journey, it's going to create 2 very jarring aspects, because astrology is all about geometry. You know, does it make triangles, does it make squares, does it make quincunxes, which is 5, and what it will first jar with is it will come into a very tense aspect with the black moon. What is the black moon? We'll talk about that when I turn the cards around. But also, more troublingly, I feel it will come into this stuff that's all happening in your 5th house already. You've already got Saturn there in retrograde. You've also got Jupiter and Pluto, and that's the stuff on the global scale that's creating all the problems with the coronavirus, with the lockdown. All of that is happening. It's not easy stuff. It's not great stuff at all. And Mars is going to stick its oar in as well, so it's going to be explosive and it's going to be very tense. So there's great opportunities to be had with Mercury and with Venus, but also there's some real challenges ahead. So we'll have a look at, we'll turn the cards around now, and then when we've done our reading, I'll make you some recipes to follow to help you see your way through. Hello Virgo, and for those of you who have birthdays in August, happy birthday. Let's start by quickly showing you where the cards came out. So Monada, as you may remember, was number 1. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And when we're looking at a reading, I've found that number 1 and number 12 show us where you come in, right? And I'm very excited about your reading, I have to tell you, Virgo. Let me tell you a little bit about synchronicities first of all. I try to have my ears and eyes open to synchronicities all of the time, but tend not to really notice until after the event. But I was doing some homeschooling with my son this morning, putting him through the ringer. Now we're in the summer holidays. And we had a question in maths about elks. I think it was something like the researchers had managed to tag 97 elks, and then they saw that there were 200 walking across the plain, of which 23 were marked. So how many elks, what can we surmise about that? So straight away I was able to do that. And he went, well, that's cool, but what's an elk? So I showed him what an elk was and told him all about elks. And he said, wow, you're really loving the elks, aren't you? And I was like, I do love elks. And then I've laid out your cards, and your first card is Monada, which is elk medicine. So I can do it all over again. So I've written a book about Monada because I find it, well, it's an incredibly healing plant. Anyway, I'll talk about the physical stuff afterwards. But I want to talk about the elk medicine first, because I think it really resonates with where you are in your astrological cycle at the moment. Because as you go into the month, your you're going to have a lot of activity in your 12th house. The sun is in your 12th house, for example, and it can be a very strange time as you're heading up for your birthday, because it can be a time of looking back and thinking, well, that's another year older and I haven't achieved very much, or you know, you can feel quite worried and anxious and down, and it's easy to think it's just the passage of time. But if you think about it from the perspective that the sun is in your 12th house, then it starts to make more sense and becomes a really valuable learning experience. So what is the 12th house? So the 12th house is the place of unseen things. So it's your inner world. I always say it's the place where things have no form. So we draw things like astrology. We say aromatherapy is an art and a science. It would rule that aspect of it being an art, and very specifically this kind of stuff where we can put science down and say reasons why essential oils affect the mind, but actually it's almost unquantifiable, and that's a 12th house kind of thing. But it rules one's fears, one's worries, one's habits, and of course in those weeks coming up to your birthday, then those are all highlighted. So it can be a very, very tense time, and we're living in a tense time at the moment anyway. So speaking of someone who's just gone through this period, I'm a Cancerian, so I found it hard, you know. So let me tell you about Monarda. As I say, it's elk medicine in Lakota medicine. So it grows prolifically like a weed in North America. So you may have seen it. On here it's pink, and I asked for it to be painted pink when we did the cards. If you look on the book that I wrote, it is red. They're different strains of Monarda. I picked the one with the red one simply because it had a hummingbird and I'm that shallow. So that's Monarda didima, and you can make an essential oil out of it. I do, but the one that you buy normally is Monarda fistulosa, and Monarda fistulosa is the one that is seen around a lot. So it's a traditionally used medicine weed in Native American medicine, particularly by the Lakota tribe. And they use it for many, many different things. So physically, it's a very good respiratory medicine, which is how I had discovered it. But it's extremely yin. So if we think about yin as being feminine and yang being masculine, so when something is yin, you're very passive, you're submissive, you are accommodating. I can't think of a better word than that. We need to be stronger than submissive, whatever that is. So kind of just laying back and taking it. So three of the ways that the Lakota use it. First of all, when a baby is born, they take all the Monarda leaves and put it into the baby's bath water and bathe the baby in Monarda to strengthen it. So that tells you a great deal about the power of the medicine. It's one of their most treasured medicines. They also use it in steam ceremonies. So they make like sweat lodges, and they will make stones extremely hot. They'll place stones in a fire, and then they place herbs and medicinal plants and water onto the stones, and the sweat, the steam. Well, we've kind of modernized and bastardized that into using it in diffusers, but that's the proper way of using these medicine plants. So we'll talk about the sweat lodge in a moment. It's also used as a medicinal plant to heal the wounds and to help in the sun dance. So I would recommend, when you've read this, that you go and read up on the sun dance just to get an understanding of it, because I don't feel qualified to talk about it very much. because it's really difficult from our culture to understand it. But to give you an indication, many tribes come together in a sacrificial village, and they sort of live in circles, one circle outside another circle outside another. And then the men, it's usually the men, after having done a purifying ritual, come together and attach themselves to the pole in the middle of the circle, and they use great big ropes and attach them to their body by sticking pieces of bone into their chests and backs and skulls. And then watching the sun, they move slowly and try to pull these bones out of their skin. And you can imagine if it's in the back or in their skull, and then this can take a long time. So each dancer has the support of a mentor, and as evening starts to come and the sun goes down, then the mentor can help them free themselves of this tether that they have by pulling them hard or dancing with them and pushing them so that it frees them from the bone, which sounds very painful to me. And prior and after, they burn many herbal plants, specifically Monada, to help take the prayers to the elders and to the spirits to help them to have their prayers answered. So their prayers would be for things like to become a better hunter or a better husband, or whatever their dream was for the year. And this is an annual thing that happened on midsummer. So if we think about the effects of Monada in that situation, it's a terribly painful thing, but their Monada helps them submit to the lesson. So we have this motivation to keep going forward. And also from a physical point of view, we use it. It's used a lot in Hungary, I've discovered, when people are in labour, to help them submit to the labour, to stop working against the labour. So if we put that into the context of you being in the 12th house, we have this submission to the lessons that are going on. So now let's talk about the sweat lodge a little bit, because I think that that's important, and in the context of the elk medicine. So I'm sure you're aware that Native American medicine, indigenous people's medicine, tends to rely on spirit animals, totem animals. So elk medicine, if you think about an elk, it's like the biggest of all of the deer family. And of course, it is found predominantly in Native America too. So they are profoundly linked to these people. They understand these animals. And what's interesting about elks is they really love the company of other elks of the same sex. So when you see them roaming, if you think about Dexter's question that they saw 200 marked, and chances are all of the female elk were walking together, and all of the male elks were walking together. But particularly the females really like each other. And what the Native Americans say is the elk medicine helps to draw people who are of the same character or tribe, or people who can help you to you. But also the elk really understands the need to go off and be alone. So out of Dexter's 200 elks, there may have been some stragglers, and the elk wouldn't go and find out what's going on, what's happening. They would just say they just need time to be on their own. And so this is a quality that they try to cultivate within their the indigenous people, that they understand that they can go off, they can do what they need to do quietly in the sweat lodge to work through the stuff that they've got to do, and when they come back, it's okay. It's just okay. There's no conversation needs to be had unless they feel they need to have it. So now if we put this into the context of what's happening in your astrology, as I say, you're going straight into the 12th house, which is the place to go inwards and to think about the things, to focus on the stuff that's coming up, the things that's worrying you, the things that are making you fearful, that you're making you angry. In that time of discomfort, this is a time of synchronicities, and Monada, like no other, will be able to help you be submissive, to not be yang, not to be that active, volatile, reactive state, but to just sit, be passive and submit to the messages that are coming, but also to be diligent and conscious that this is what you should be doing at this time and working through it. So what's really interesting is it's followed by lemon, which is contentment. And if you imagine that from the physical point of view, we have lemon helps to balance serotonin in the body. Serotonin is the mood modulator. We have this submission to this hard stuff. I mean, we're not, hopefully, from my point of view, that you're not putting bones in your body, but you know, if that's what you want to do, that's fine by me. Because it's, you know, just find it quite very difficult to get my head round. I would love to see it happen though. I'd be fascinated to see it. But you feel content in this ritual, in this passing of time, in this stage that has to go through. Now, Myrtle's a really interesting card because you can read it in so many different ways. And in a lot of the readings, I have read it as an upset little girl. I always use myrtle as an oil to calm upset children. It's fantastic if you have somebody who suffers from a cough a lot and you perhaps have stress-related asthma, something like that. Myrtle is a tremendous connection to the spiritual body. But here, I think that this is the opposite way around. I think it's tranquility in the lesson. That perhaps we are visiting old wounds from childhood. Perhaps we are feeling like a little child as we enter this time, that we feel intimidated by what's going on, maybe immature to be able to see what's going on, or just everything feels, I can't quite get the word, like everything's big. I don't know if that makes sense, like a child looking at stuff that is overwhelming and terrifying, really. I'm picking up, I can see myself as a child on my first day at school and thinking, oh my goodness, I don't know any of these people and this school looks enormous and I just don't know which way to move forward, you know. And of course, over time, I became part of the movement around the school, and then eventually became somebody in a different coloured uniform looking after those children standing under the bridge. And so this feels like stuff feels new and intimidating to me, but feeling calm in it. Now, peppermints are strange plant to come there, but also what's strange is those two are used together in the same ceremonies. So that's, I wonder if that's related, but this is about conscious thought, really, planning, not being distracted by the other stuff that's going on, and potentially that actually reads more sensibly, that one does go off on one's own and not get drawn into the arguments that it creates by people going, why are you being odd? And if one thinks about it in the context of the sweat lodge and of the sun dance, one would presume that as a dancer, one would focus on needing or wanting or desiring, asking for help on areas where we have weakness. Achilles heel. the place where we are most weak. But this is the wounded healer. And of course, remember that these dancers have mentors who help them go through it. These are the people who've done the sun dance before, and know what it takes, and know how to work their way through the pain. And that feels like you come out the other side of it feeling very much wiser and like you've done the work. So this is a really nice card to turn up here. And actually you've got lots and lots of fruit. And fruit always says to me great outcomes, bounty, abundance. But this, it's a funny keyword, playfulness, because it is like childhood mirth, you know, giggling in the school, in the classroom, and that, you know, that feeling of stifling your giggling. But it's also a very dignified oil. My mum always describes it as tea at Raffles in Singapore. One has one's best clothes on. There are no marks on your beautiful white suit, and your fingernails look far better than mine, and you know, you're drinking tea out of best china, and you've got your extended little finger, and you're sitting upright, and you're chatting, and it's convivial, and it's not challenging, and it's just very dignified. And I think that's what I feel like. You've just, that the Monada helps you to just go, I am struggling, but that's okay. That's okay. I can work through this. Because, you know, Virgos, you're extremely good at systems, at routines, at rituals. You have your systems that work for you in life. And if you go on to buy the knowledge base, I do a big lecture all about the Virgos in my life and how their systems work through. But you're extremely good at being able to say, right, this is what I'm going to do to make it better. You like finding the dirt underneath and where things are not quite right, and being able to put a new method in place. And at the end of that, I think that what we see here is you just look incredibly like you've come out of it like a swan. You know, you've been paddling underneath the water, but we can't see that. You're just gliding elegantly through it, and one hopes that then this is when the elk is coming back to the tribe. This is you know, this is, I always say this is a shamanic card, and we're talking about shamanic rituals here. And I think in the 12th house, more than any, that's shamanic time, you know. And if you think, it's the death of the old life, the beginning of the new. So I always say that this here is the cusp that sits between Pisces here, Aries here. Pisces is the oldest of all of the zodiac, and then we're going over to the toddler. But this is the cusp, this moment where we sit on between something really extraordinary happening. And I always use the example of Angelica, that I use it for lots of things, for respiratory medicine. Funny how that's respiratory as well. That's respiratory, that's respiratory, that's respiratory. So that might be something to say to us. But also remember, those are sweat lodge things to clear the breathing. But and also it's digestive, but where I use it most, I use it for people who are struggling to go through some kind of change, and specifically then I would say hospice work. That is always my example of what to use it for that moment, for the person who's lying in the bed and wondering what on earth's coming ahead for me. I don't want to let go because that's fearful for me. But also those people who are sitting on the chairs beside and do a watching and thinking, what is life going to be without this person? How am I going to cope? Angelica understands that moment, and is very, very good at being able to soften the stem. It's a really fantastic oil. I'm quite frustrated by Angelica at the moment because I've been trying to grow it in my garden for about 3 years yet, and it still hasn't flowered, and I keep talking to it, but it's not ready to show me its medicine yet. But you see how the stalk is so tall and thin? It's very hollow inside, but the wind doesn't blow it over. It's so stable and strong and fortified, and that is the medicine that brings. And it is yin, but not in the same way as that one is that kind of yin, you know, so floppy. If you read any work by Kiva Rose, she describes how it's like flying off on butterfly wings, you know, you just let, there's no heaviness to anything at all in there. And we've got meditation. This is about walking softly on the land, stepping very carefully, kind of being like the elk really, just quietly going off and doing what you need to do. It's all reading the same thing, isn't it? Then we've got insights into what's happening. Then we've got really nice stuff. We've got, you know, this is feeling positive. This just feels like a lovely journey when you... The sun is shining on that area, right? It's shining on the 12th house. It's illuminating it. So to be able to see that as a time of illumination, of looking forward, of seeing where are my vulnerabilities? Where is my place that I'm going to be affected? Well, that's great, because now I know what I can work on for the next year. So you've seen it from a really positive point of view. But you might not feel that all the way through it. Because Sweet Fennel says, when you have run 25 miles of your marathon, then it's going to start getting difficult. And perhaps this is sundown on the Sundance, you know, it's really hurting now. You had great hope for what you were going to do. You were excited and optimistic. You've waited all your life to be attached to that pole, but in the reality of it, it's really, really hard. So we can see this as the mentor, you know, the mentor who steps in, who's been there before, done it before, knows what you're going through and what it will take, and just says, hang in there, because we can do it, we can be resilient, we can get through. Sweet Fennel is such a great helper here. And remember, this is where we started. This is here. What is this? This is support. And so if it does feel like you are being triggered, if Monada's not enough to soften you, which it really should be, you know, it's very hard to be the kind of person that can react back to that. Lavender takes the place and says, yeah, I can support you through this. Now, this is a strange, strange anomaly to come up with the elk medicine. Because we're kind of going from medicine to medicine here. Can you see here we have the string? That's the string that attaches you to the medicine pole in Native American medicine. But also, if you read the poem talks about how Archangel Michael will come with his sword and cut you with chains that release you from the past. There's your chain, there's the thread that holds you back. So this is the release from the medicine pole. Beautiful stuff. But I just want to pick up something else that is bothering me about this month. Because, and I have to be quick because we're running out of time and I don't want to have to splice the video. So I talked about how Mars is going to create a harsh alignment with what's going on in your 5th house. And your 5th house is, you know, your enjoyment, your eternal child, how ready you are to play. And it's Capricorn, and there's Saturn in there, there's Pluto in there, Jupiter's in there. They're all going retrograde in your 5th house and making it very difficult. You probably feel very restricted, and you don't need to be psychic to say that you're restricted whenever the whole world is in lockdown. But potentially you're feeling that there. Although retrogrades go on the outer planets like Saturn and Pluto, they're not so difficult to traverse because they move so slowly. They spend pretty much half the year in retrograde anyway. If Mercury is retrograde, then that's more difficult. Venus retrograde, Mars retrograde, they move faster, so they become important. What you tend to have is, if you imagine that Saturn is the head teacher, he's left the room and he's started to look the other way. You start to have like You feel like you don't have the glare of Saturn anymore. So that's kind of, well, it's retrograde in Capricorn. It's not feeling so much like you are restricted as you were before. But Mars is going to go into your 8th house. And your 8th house is, we call the house of sex, death and taxes. So it could be any of those areas that you feel is illuminated. I always say it's the house of other people's money, inheritance, your partner's salary, that kind of thing. And Mars is in that house, and then it's going to create a harsh alignment with what's going on in your 5th house. It also creates a strange alignment with the black moon. So the black moon is a theoretical point in one's chart of having 4 new moons in one season. So when we have a black moon, what we find is we feel uncomfortable because the rhythm of the universe is affected. So it feels difficult. And what happens is people are triggered. People are feeling, they erupt, you know, you have bad tempers, that kind of thing. So we tend to have urges, arguments. It's very volatile time. So if you think that Mars has that conjunction with that with the black moon, but also with the 5th house, then things are going to be dangerous times. And this is around 2 different dates, really, the 13th and the 24th. And the whole planet is going to feel it on those dates, and probably about 4 days before and 4 days afterwards. So it's not a time for being in that, you know, in certainly the 13th is before, yeah, well, actually they're right around the time that the sun goes into your 1st house, which is going to be much easier. But you could definitely be the person that's causing arguments. So this is important stuff, that you become yin to this. You don't become the antagonizer, because what we're going to see through that part of August for everybody is what I always call the microcosm of the macrocosm. You're going to be angry. The people around you are going to be angry. The people of your town are going to be angry. The country, the world, and we see it reflected in the universe at large. Very difficult times. So it's really important that you use your oils to go inwards and do that stuff. Make no mistake, as the sun goes into your sign at the 23rd, so Mercury goes in just before, that's your time of wishes, of dreams, of destinations, and you have absolutely beautiful cards here. So know that when your birthday comes, it's going to feel lovely, and Mercury is going to go into your into Virgo too. So you're going to have lots of information about how you can move forward with your job, your vocation, all of that stuff. But I think all of that information can be gleaned by going inwards at the first part of the month and really working this through. Beautiful stuff. So I'm going to put all of this onto some slides for you to create you 4 different recipes to help you through the month. Please do leave me some comments underneath, because I'm fascinated to see how this plays out for you. You know, I probably, without the astrology, would have read that completely different. I would have said that you may feel very down because these are all antidepressant oils. I would have said that you may be prone to chest infections, because these are all respiratory medicines. There is a little bit of digestive stuff. So I'm going to put you some different recipes together, but I think the spiritual journey here is going to be fascinating, and I want you to really watch what's going on. Go right back to the beginning of the video and read what I put about the Sun Doctor. And I've put this on everybody's videos because I do think it's a time not to be the Moon Doctor, to be the Sun Doctor, of making conscious decisions, being in the conscious mind. Even when you're doing the subconscious work, just be aware of what's going on around you, because this is a tense month and dangerous things can happen. I feel very sure of it. So yeah, I will hopefully see you in September when you have grown. You will really have grown. It's an exciting time for you. And yeah, look up the sun dance and look up the sun doctor at the beginning. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed it. So hopefully you found that interesting and helpful. If you would like to get your own Tongue of the Trees box of cards, obviously I'd love you to do that. It pays for my work here. I'm going to put a link to my website below, and you'll be able to see where to be able to get those from. And also, if you want to go more deeper into the reading and start to understand the medical astrology and the elements, the Ayurvedic and the traditional Chinese medicine, as well as the chakras and the blending, you might also want to buy the knowledge base that goes with it. The knowledge base is a digital platform. It's like an online set of videos where I talk you through absolutely every aspect of the different essential oils. So there's around about 40 videos. It's a separate purchase, but obviously it's an immediate download if you want to be able to access that. So thank you. If you also want to have your own reading, please do check out my website, thesecrethealer.co.uk, and book yourself an hour-long consultation, and I will do you your own reading. For the meantime, I'm going to say goodbye. Say goodbye to the Sun Goddess, because next month it will be the Melissa, the goddess, the priestess that officiated at Demeter Kaur's festival of the autumn in ancient Greece, the mysteries of Eleusis. See you in Melissa land.
So you get your phone, you turn it this way up, and then there's a little red subscribe button. Turn it grey by clicking it, and then there's a little bell. Click that and press all at the bottom of your phone or tablet or computer. It'll say you will receive all notifications. And then there's a little hand with a thumbs up. Click that, it'll turn it blue and it says added to your liked videos. And there will be comments. And if you want to, you can send a comment and say like hi's to Mum and Gag like. And then the link to the next video will be in the description below underneath the video. So bye.